Welcome back to Access. I'm Ken.
I'm Nicole.
And we made it! We made it to the New Testament!
Woohoo!
Woohoo! I hope you are as excited as we are. We're just happy to be moving, I think.
I think so. I think
We're cruising.
Yeah, and it's I think after 16 prophetic books,
We're ready for something different.
we're ready for a different kind of prophetic word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we are doing the Gospel of Matthew today.
Mhm.
And this is an exciting time.
It is.
I'll start off saying just a word about Gospels. The word Gospel means good news.
Mhm.
So you'll hear the word, I bring good news, within the text, but it's also the name that we have for the book itself. The Gospels all just tell the story of Jesus' life.
Yes.
So you'll hear that word used in different ways. A word about Matthew, since we're doing the history of that book first. Matthew, and Nicole's going to talk more about the community to which Matthew wrote, the Jewish community. I think the most important thing to know contextually is that it's written around somewhere between the years of 80 and 90. And in the first century, if you know one date, and only one date, you should know the date of AD 70.
Yeah.
Because that is the year that Rome sweeps into Jerusalem and destroys the temple. And the emperor, I think it's Titus, actually we have an image of him carrying out a menorah in Rome. So AD 70 is when the second temple is leveled to the ground, and that temple's never rebuilt.
Yeah.
And then what's left of there is what's the Wailing Wall today. That, as you can imagine, has seismic ripples for the Jewish community and the Christian community.
Yeah.
And Matthew is very much, and the whole Christian community kind of, is responding to this need. How do you worship when there's no temple? And the Christians have a way to worship,
right.
A way to keep the stories going.
Yeah, because up until that point, Christianity is really just a sect within Judaism.
And I still say, like, at this point, you consider it a Jewish movement.
Yeah, it's still a Jewish movement.
Yeah, they do not see themselves as
No.
separate in the way that we do today.
They're not a distinct religion at all. They're just a different variety of Judaism, and there were lots of different varieties of Judaism.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We've got we know a lot more about the first century than we ever used to about Judaism. What you cannot do is talk about Judaism like it's one thing. And Christians, I think, are forever guilty of doing that. Groups that were around at the time, you had Sadducees, and Sadducees mainly are the temple elite, and they had a very cozy relationship with the Roman Empire. So the Sadducees didn't believe in things like resurrection. They kept to the old ways. They were aristocratic. Direct competitors with the Sadducees are the Pharisees. The Pharisees are actually incredibly liberal.
Super liberal.
In fact, in Matthew's community, they look a lot like the Christian community.
Yeah.
Because the Pharisees live with the people, and they're trying to figure out how do we make the law livable for regular, common, ordinary people when the temple is destroyed. So they have synagogue worship, not just temple. Sadducees die out with the destruction of the temple. There's no point.
Yeah.
So Pharisees are the main kind of competitors, if you will, in Jesus' day. There are Essenes, and those are the folks who gave us the Dead Sea Scrolls. They live down kind of the Texas of Israel, down in the Dead Sea, which is hot and dry, and they were an apocalyptic community that were thinking the end's coming soon, and so they were out there kind of preparing for battle, and they were kind of the crazies.
More of the mystical traditions.
Okay.
Let's say that.
That's a nicer way to put it.
It is.
So there were Essenes, and it was monastic.
Yeah, and it was monastic mysticism.
There were the Zealots. The Zealots are mainly political revolutionaries that are, they were inspired by Jewish tradition, really the Maccabees that we heard about a little bit earlier. But their main thought is to overthrow Rome. And there are, I think, undoubtedly many, many more. Can you think of any major Jewish sects I've missed?
I think those are the big kind of categories, and within those you have lots of little things as well. And you have itinerant preachers.
Yes.
Preachers. Can we use the word preaching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And miracle doers.
And miracle doers. There's lots and lots of people going around. And so when they see Jesus, they think he's just another normal dude. Like
he fits into a context.
He fits into kind of a mold of an itinerant preacher, healer.
So sometimes I think people are surprised, saying, "Why didn't people just
Why didn't people
out
recognize
and get him?"
Yeah, it's like because there was lots of others doing similar things.
Hundreds of people claiming to be the Messiah or the new king. They would all go out in the desert and say, "I'm the Messiah." No, I'm the Messiah. It was like Spartacus gone wrong.
Yeah.
And none of them ever really did. There was a revolution, I think, in 130ish or so, Bar Kokhba.
Yeah.
I'm the Messiah, and Rome tended to put messiahs down quickly.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were
Political
revolutionaries and threats, which we're going to pick up a lot more with Mark.
You bet.
But for Matthew, he is really speaking to a Jewish context. Because remember, post-temple is when they're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And the Christian sect starts to split off. And also Rabbinic Judaism starts to split off. And these become kind of the strands that get established post-70 BC. Or sorry, post-70 CE.
Right.
Common Era. About 10 years ago.
The AD BCE switchover has taken place. They've all changed their watches now.
Yeah.
So we're all into our timeline. Now time's going forward, not backwards.
Not backwards. And so we know that the audience is Jewish because of certain themes that get fleshed out within Matthew. The use of Hebrew texts and traditions is far heavier in Matthew than any of the other Gospels. 40 times direct Old Testament quotes are lifted saying, "It is written," blank. That's a lot. And then there's 21 allusions to the Old Testament, or sorry, direct quotes without the formula, "It is written." So that's 61 times in 28 chapters? That's a lot.
That's a lot. And more than any of the other Gospels.
Way more than any of the other. There's also this theme of framing and fulfillment of the law, which we're going to talk about a little bit more when we talk about the Beatitudes. And the Gospel is really trying to show how Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament, of those Old Testament scriptures, of prophecies. It's an apologetic gospel, like trying to convince the Jewish community, that's the audience, that Christ, or that Jesus is the Messiah.
And kind of almost, which we'll talk about with the infancy story, kind of the new Moses.
Yeah.
New Moses and even better than Moses.
Yes. There's also, and also the theme of the Davidic Messiah is picked up and used. We're going to see that.
Which you know where that comes from now.
The Zephaniah.
And Isaiah.
Micah, all that stuff. And that's part of that fulfillment aspect, is that Jesus is in that Davidic line. You see that in the genealogies. And fulfilling that Davidic role, but not in a political way. It's reframing what Davidic messiahship looks like.
Yeah, it's not a king with a sword, right?
No.
It's a king with an olive branch.
Yeah, it's twisting it and changing it. Reframing is really, I think, the appropriate word for a lot of what Matthew is doing.
Other thoughts for themes?
Those are kind of the Matthean distinctive themes. There's lots of other themes.
Apology for here. We've been doing the minor prophets, which you probably could do, a lot on.
Yeah.
But with the time that we have, we didn't have a whole lot of material. Here with the Gospels, we are now, there's so much more to say than we can possibly do here.
We could talk for hours.
So this is a start. This is just getting the ball rolling.